Cool. Okay, so we're live here to give our message of solidarity for the Easter Uprising. Before that, Reverend Dumitru Ichim will say a few religious words about Easter in Romanian and English, and then I will give the message.
Why Romanian?
Okay, fine, in English. Just say a few words.
Tomorrow is Sunday, and we have Easter Sunday for the Western Church, and for the Eastern is Palm Sunday. And what is interesting in Palm Sunday in Romanian culture, we don't have palms.
Mm-hmm.
So the first tree, which comes to be green in the spring, is the willow.
Mm-hmm.
So we, instead of palm branches, we have
Willow branches.
willow branches, and it's very nice. And the second, the Palm Sunday is called Florile. I'll teach you Romanian.
Mm-hmm.
That means flower. The root is flower, because in our culture, the Palm Sunday is a cosmical event, and all the nature is participating, and in the spring, all the flowers are coming to greet the God, the King, and entering in Jerusalem. So this is why we call the Flower Day, or something like that. And on the other hand, we have tomorrow the Easter Sunday, and everybody is confused with the little rabbit, chocolate rabbit, and so on. But that's a stupid symbol, because it doesn't have any relation with the Easter. On Easter, we celebrate Christ, who after 3 days in the tomb, he resurrected. And that is a historical event. And on the other hand, is for us, it has a meaning as a symbol. Is a symbol like all the people which are and the nations suffering in their tomb, let's say something like that, come in freedom, in liberty, a resurrection of all nations, to be free, to live in peace, to live in love. That's the meaning of Easter.
And before we end this video, we're going to talk about this book we talked about in the last YouTube video, but it was wiped out. So, as my father mentioned earlier, Easter is important because it is about liberation. In 1916, in Ireland, people rose up on Easter in 1916 to demand liberation of their country from the foreign occupation of Britain. 800 years later, and Ireland is still occupied by Britain. At this point in time, we are at a very important crisis. The world is once again divided into spheres of influence by the American warmongers, with their so-called allies of Britain. The Anglo-British alliance is once again dividing the world and trying to send us to war with Russia over the issue of Ukraine. All forces that love peace need to take a stand now and demand a just peace. What do I mean by a just peace? You cannot have peace without justice. And what is justice? Justice means that the people themselves are the decision makers, and that can't be done if the nations do not have sovereignty. As long as the world is divided in spheres of influence, and small nations are occupied by big nations, these smaller nations cannot express sovereignty. The same way that Jesus rose from the dead after 3 years of
3 days.
COVID,
Oh,
3 days
oh,
after 3 years of COVID, when the world has used this as an excuse to pilfer the smaller nations, it is time for the smaller nations to rise up and demand peace and sovereignty. Sovereignty means control of your resources. Sovereignty means control of your economy. Sovereignty means the right to have a political system that you yourself choose and that is not forced upon you by a foreign government. Here in Canada, at this point in time, this was once native land. The natives have lost, no, the natives have not lost their sovereignty. The English have tried to steal the sovereignty of the indigenous people of this land, but for many years, the indigenous people of this land have resisted the same way that Irish people have resisted. And Pierre Trudeau, with his neoliberal agenda, is once again trying to throw us into a war that we have nothing to do with. At the same time, Ireland, Romania, and other countries are also being thrown into this war. If we want to talk about justice for Ukraine, and if we want to talk about Russian aggression, we cannot stop and ignore the British aggression in Ireland, or the Canadian aggression to its indigenous people, or the aggression of the European Union towards Romanian people, forcing Romania to buy grains that are flooded, that are dumped. Yes, that are dumped on the market to destroy the Romanian economy.
The farmers are
Right now, at this point in time, the farmers are protesting and are taking a stand to demand their sovereignty. But as long as the Romanian people do not have the power to be the decision makers, they do not have sovereignty. They are, people talk about the European Union as a family. Well, if we're talking about the European Union as a family, that means a family of equals. Romania cannot be the the bad cousin who stays outside of the house and isn't allowed inside the house. In the same way, Britain cannot talk about the crimes of Russia while they are occupying Ireland and they are doing actions against the people in Short Strand and other enclaves of republicanism. At this point in time, to achieve justice and peace, we need a government that is against war. For a government to be against war, it means that the interests of the nation must come first. And the only people that can express the interests of the nation is the working class that is the root of the nation. On this Easter, when we remember those who died in the Easter Uprising, like James Connolly, when we remember the death of Christ, let us also remember the resurrection of Christ, and let us also remember the resurrection that will come of all nations that are under occupation. Thank you very much. Before we finish this, I want to introduce this book, the Old Celtic Dictionary, right over here, and it has a quote from the Reverend Dumitru Ichim that you can see, but it's backwards. So if you want, you can read the quote.
You better read it.
You can read it.
The effort put forward to understand the current political landscape of what was the Celtic lands can only be understood by examining the path. The dictionary goes to the root of this by giving an understanding of the language that shaped their world view. A must read for anyone interested in the current affairs of Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. And this dictionary is compiled by Vincent F. Pintado, a scholar, and this is indeed a scholarly work. And I am very glad to have a book like this. Is a treasure book for my library and for my heart too.
And yeah, if you have a chance, you should take a look and grab this book. It's very, very important. It goes to the Proto-Celtic languages. You were mentioning earlier something about the Danube.
Yeah, we say Romanian Dunăre, but it's called the Danube, and Danube, if you go to the dictionary, to the Celtic, you find the Danubia, Danubia being the goddess of waters. And indeed, Danube is the goddess of Europe, passing seven countries until they get to the delta in Romania, and Ukraine is destroying the delta, and nobody say anything why this nation destroy a delta preserved by UNESCO. UNESCO.
Again, this is another example of what happens.
They say the poor Ukrainians are in war. So why in the world you are in war and you destroy the delta, the nature, and everything? The delta is unique in Europe. We have delta of Nile in Africa and delta of Romania, of Danube.
And the Romanian people can't stop this until they get a government.
Because we can't stop it because they made Romania a colony of the United States. And now the United States are sending the directives what the government that this puppet has to do. They don't stay for our people. They don't stay for our. Now they want in the parliament to
privatize.
Yeah, all the major companies, nuclear company and
energy companies,
energy and banks,
yes,
and everything is Romanian. So what the difference between the colony of the British Empire and the colony of United States? Tell me, what is the difference?
There is no difference. And like James Connolly said, even if you hoist the green flag over Dublin Castle tomorrow, they will still rule you through their capitalists, through their landlords, through their bankers. Only by expressing sovereignty and only by having the power over your politics, your economy, and your resources can you be the decision maker, and only that way can you be sovereign. On this Easter, we are asking again for justice, peace, and sovereignty. Thank you very much.
Bravo.